Hello. In this problem, I want to let f of x equal the square root of x plus 3 and g of x equals 7x minus 1. I want to find f composed of g of x and state its domain in interval notation, and then I want to find f composed of g of 3. Okay, to find f composed of g of x, I need to realize that that means f of g of x. And working from the inside out, that gives me f of whatever g of x is. In this case is 7x minus 1. So I go back to the f function right here and replace x with 7x minus 1. So that's the square root of, notice I have the x, but I'm going to write 7x minus 1 because that's what I have in the parentheses here. But don't forget your plus 3 at the end. So that gives me the square root of 7x plus 2. And that is f composed of g of x. Okay, I want to find the domain now. To do that, I need the domain of this right here. So I'm effectively starting with the answer here and asking what limits the domain from what you're seeing right here. Well, because I have a radical, that's limiting the domain. And so that means that 7x plus 2 must be greater than or equal to 0 because it's an even radical. So that means that whatever's underneath has to be greater than or equal to 0, or else you'll get an imaginary number. So I subtract 2 from both sides, which gives me 7x is greater than or equal to negative 2. Then I divide by 7, so that means that x is greater than or equal to negative 2/7. Now this is the domain that I see from here, but I always need to go back to the second function that's listed here. In this case, it's the g function. And the function I see from this is that my domain is all real numbers, because there is no radical and there is no rational. So to find the total domain of this function, I take the intersection between this right here, the all real numbers, and the domain right here, x is greater than or equal to negative 2/7. Well, what we get from that basically is that x is greater than or equal to negative 2/7. So your domain here, I'm going to start at negative 2/7, and I'm going to go on to infinity. And notice that I'm clearly saying that I include the negative 2/7. If you need to, you can always do your number line, put the negative 2/7 in the middle, and go the direction that this arrow says. So you're going to the right. And notice it's or equal to, that's why I use the square bracket. And this is how I get negative 2/7 to infinity, including the negative 2/7. Now for the last part, I want to find f composed of g of 3. Some people like to go back to the original two functions here, but there's no reason to do so. What you can do instead is go back to your function that you have here and simply replace x with 3. So that gives me 7 times 3 plus 2. So the 7 times 3 is 21, and 21 plus 2 is 23. And that tells me that f composed of g of 3 is the square root of 23. And notice that because 3 is within this domain, that's the reason I got a number. If I had used negative 3 instead of positive 3, it would have been outside of my domain, which would have been no solution. Or, excuse me, there would just be no real answer.